What's going on with Syria? Answer: to understand what's happening in Syria now, we have to go back to 2011, when the Syrian government under Bashar al-Assad sparked a civil war after violently repressing pro-democracy protests. The civil war was extremely destructive, with the Assad regime and its military, the Syrian Arab Army, SAA, barely maintaining control. Significant portions of the country fell into the control of rebels, who ran the ideological gamut from secular pro-democracy fighters to hyper-conservative Islamic groups, like ISIS. The Assad government was ultimately saved by support from Russia, which offered air power, and Iran, which provided weapons and fighters through Hezbollah, which generally follows its orders. With this support, the civil war wasn't completely ended, but the rebels were forced into increasingly small pockets of control. Of particular note, one rebel group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, managed to hold on in the northern Syrian city of Idlib. They're a very conservative Islamist group that grew out of the al-Nusra Front, which was itself an ally of al-Qaeda. They want to create a regressive theocracy in Syria, and are willing to use violence to do so, which obviously is a reason to be concerned about them. In the past few years, the Assad government's badly needed foreign support has dried up. As Russia is increasingly drawn into their disastrous war with Ukraine, they've pulled most of their air assets out of Syria to fight elsewhere. Adding to that, Hezbollah was decimated earlier this year when Israel went to war with them in Lebanon, which means Iran can no longer call on them to provide fighters. With those changes combined, Assad and the SAA were suddenly in a very precarious position. They controlled most of the country, but no longer really had the power to hold that territory if challenged. It was just going to be a question of which rebel group tested them first. As it turns out, HTS was that rebel group. They burst out of Idlib and launched an assault on Syria's second-largest city, Aleppo. During the first phase of the civil war, the battle for Aleppo dragged on over 4 years and caused near-apocalyptic damage to the city. This time the city fell in barely 2 days, as the SAA dissolved shockingly quickly without foreign support. Capitalizing on their unexpected victory, HTS started pushing south, to the capital of Damascus. Other rebel groups, seeing how unexpectedly weak the SAA was, also began to attack and make rapid progress. As of today, it appears Assad has fled Syria, and Damascus has officially fallen to the rebels. So what comes next? Nobody knows exactly, but I think there's reason to be nervous. At least 3 major rebel groups are in Damascus right now, and they don't agree on what form they would want a new government to take. There's a very real risk of them starting to fight for control. If they do, HTS is likely the strongest militarily, but it's not at all clear that they could take control of the whole country. It's also not entirely clear what HTS will do in areas they control. They are terrifyingly theocratic and regressive, but they also seem acutely aware that if they go too far, they risk sparking economic or military intervention from outside powers. They're doing an odd dance of holding to their goal of an Islamic state within Syria, but also trying to present themselves as reasonable and collaborative partners to outside nations.